So, guys, what do y'all want to talk about? What's going on? This is the High Spot Podcast. I am Jeff Martin alongside my co host, the trendsetter, Brian Berga. We are on the Give Us a Shot Network, HSP. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so you don't miss a second of HSP. We're also available on all podcast platforms. So, give us a listen if you can't watch us here. And of course, we are also on all social media platforms. Follow us at High Spot Podcast. We're going to talk about Money in the Bank. We're going to talk about NXT. And if you say his name, he appears. I got the trendsetter with me. What is going on? How are you doing, man?
Well, you don't have to say my name for me to appear. I'm here every single time, and I don't have a stupid, goofy smile to go along with. I'm doing great, man. Honestly, around this time, I've mentioned to you before, there always seems to be this lull, this, anticipation. All right, let's wait to the end of the summer for anything big or exciting to happen. Not the case here, man. This has been one of the most energetic, up and down summers that I've ever seen. Not just professionally for you and I, but in terms of the world of going on in professional wrestling. There's so many things going on. You got and TNA wrestlers showing up on W television. You've got the crazy things AEW is doing right now. Just seems like a whirlwind going on, and I couldn't wait to talk about it with you right now. So let's get started, man. We have a lot to cover.
Mostly everything on the up, but as we spoke about on IG Live after we did our NXT Heat Wave post reaction show, we were mentioning one certain superstar and their future because news started breaking out that Stephanie Vaquer was talking to both companies, AEW and WWE. And if you don't know the name, you will. But if you watched Forbidden Door a couple weeks ago, you saw her in that matchup with Mercedes Moné. And obviously, she opened a lot of eyes and definitely opened up the eyes of WWE because everyone thinks, okay, once you get friendly with AEW, once you're there, once you're in that locker room, it's kind of a given that you're going to sign there. And we talked about the chances of her signing with AEW and whether if you were Stephanie, you would sign with WWE. And we gave our opinion, and boy, were we surprised when we found out the news that she had signed with WWE, and it is official. Stephanie Vaquer signing with WWE. She has immediately left CMLL and New Japan, and she will head to the NXT roster, as Shawn Michaels kind of made it official too, welcoming her to Orlando. So this has a ripple effect on a lot of things because let's start out first. Congratulations to Stephanie Vaquer, a big decision. She obviously, like we said, opened up a lot of eyes at Forbidden Door. And if you didn't know the name, you kind of did then. And of course, Mercedes Moné, I think, really set her up for success because that was a really good match. We talked about it in our Forbidden Door reaction to that. That was very, very half and half as far as the action back and forth. And you really saw Stephanie highlighted in that match. And so the decision came, and the ripple effect is that as Tony Khan, you have her on a big pay-per-view event a few weeks ago, and you open up the eyes to WWE. Let's face it, WWE is hot right now. And for her to make this decision, and we talked about the money, we talked about AEW can probably offer more money and let her go to CMLL and maybe travel, still stay in New Japan, right? But the door to WWE was just too tempting that she took it. Right decision or not, Trendsetter?
Well, like I mentioned before last time, the last show we did, I felt it was the right
Well,
decision.
pretend no one saw the post show.
Yeah, but ultimately, for me, it's like, yeah, AEW would make more sense, I guess, because of what she did with Mercedes. And again, a great match there, by the way. And ultimately, too, I mean, both did a tremendous job, but they were building up for a possible rematch down the road. You thought that was the direction they're going to go in. At the same time, like I said before, too, maybe money and scheduling might lure her over to AEW because again, it's Tony Khan loves to have these athletes come on their program, and again, it's more understanding in terms of their other commitments. But like I said, WWE is the scenario right now. You said it too. They're hot. It gives you the ability to have more eyes on you. Nothing against AEW. I'm not bashing them whatsoever, but they're 5 years old. They're approaching 6 years down the road. But WWE is basically so globally known and recognized right now. Very few opportunities. And if you're going to have an opportunity off a great match that you had at Forbidden Door and take advantage of it, I think she made the right choice.
Not to mention this, that eventually you're going to have Julia on the NXT roster, and that women's roster is going to be absolutely stacked. And you can make a case if you want to make a case by the summertime, by the fall, that NXT women's division is probably going to be the best women's division in pro wrestling. So, I mean, you can make that argument.
Women's roster on NXT and the main roster, dude. It's
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
depth there.
There is a lot of depth, and the ripple effect is this. You had her on your show, and then to lose her, that's a little bit damaging. I don't care how you spin it. You promoted her on your pay-per-view in a high-profile match against your top free agent signing of all time, and then you let her slip through the cracks. Now, if this was obviously AEW fans love to point out how WWE's missed out on the Will Ospreys, on the Okadas of the world. Well, this is a big signing for Triple H and Shawn Michaels. And let's be honest, there is a different feel with these two guys at the helm of WWE. For Shawn Michaels, for his reputation, for his resume as a pro wrestler, a Hall of Famer, could be on anybody's Mount Rushmore. For him to have that pull and to be able to have these athletes come to him and feel comfortable and see what he's doing with these talents. NXT Heatwave was amazing, and she was backstage as per Fightful saying that she was backstage at NXT Heatwave. So you're back there. You see this energy. You see all of this. The WWE is high right now. How could you not want to be part of that? And when you go to AEW and you see the fans not showing up there, the pay-per-views are different. There's a whole different level. Fans are there. It's like a party. But when you go to these live events and you go to the Dynamites and you're just not seeing, as CM Punk pointed out, the hard cam empty, right? Obviously, that's got to be a deciding factor. And also talking about the global standpoint. But the ripple effect too is, I want to get back to that, is how do you let her slip through the cracks? It's just it's a tough blow, if you ask me.
Well, Jeff, when we look at Stephanie in terms of her notoriety and her basically how well she's known into the die-hardcore fans, people know who she is, right? I would say a lot of people would. I mean, I'm not trying to offend her. I think it's a good signing by WWE, but I can't compare it to the Will Ospreys and the Mercedes Monets too. She's not there at that level particularly. Can she be there at that level? I think so. I mean, talent-wise in the ring, literally she held her own, and I think sometimes superseded Mercedes. Again, that's part of the collaboration between the two of them and how well they work together in the ring at Forbidden Door. So for me, it's not necessarily a steal. It's more of just showcasing that the talent now will look at it as if, okay, here's an individual that was presented an opportunity on AEW television for a pay-per-view. They've known the inner workings of how it works. And now, because of that platform, which I'm sure was a little surprised to AEW, saying, "Oh wow, we thought this was going to be a done deal. You're gonna, work a series of matches, probably Mercedes. I don't know. I'm just guessing at this point." And then from that vantage point, we're going to start, cross promoting more and more in terms of how her schedule dictated her availability. And then to go and be invited by WWE shows one thing: AEW is watching what AEW is doing because they saw her, and then for her to be backstage to see how the inner workings of WWE works compared to AEW, she made her choice. As much as the machine is well known of WWE, and we know how the inner workings of AEW, when you compare the two, and everyone always criticizes WWE is more scripted. You go through writers, you go through this, as opposed to it's more free range and a little bit more laid back in AEW. She chose the other one. She chose the latter. She chose I guess in her terms, the one that was going to present her or give her the better opportunity to be more well known and more exposed in terms of notoriety than she wanted to. So I wouldn't say it was a damaging blow in terms of, oh my God, they stole her from underneath their hat. I think it's a blow, but not a big significant one, because right now at the same time we have to see how WWE uses her. If they use her in a way that showcases her talent and showcases her and shows other talent and other promotions like Mexico and Japan, that, hey, listen, you can come in, you can be a foreigner, and we're going to use you, because WWE hasn't had the best track record of talent coming from international side and translating with the crowd very well. So if WWE can do a good job with this, they're showcasing to other talent that, hey, the door's open for you as well. So that could be the blow for AEW.
I think that is the main focus too. That talent too. Those the people that are on the fringe are seeing what's going on in NXT. We'll talk about the show in general from this past Tuesday night, and we'll give you the example of how hot NXT is right now. Hot, maybe a little too a bit of a strong word. How strong the shows have been. Let's just bring it there. It's really definitely a big story in Mexico because they didn't expect her, I think, to leave this soon and abruptly too, because she's vacated the titles. So we'll see what happens with that, and that's on their end too, to see how they're going to work it. But she's immediately left. And when you take a look at the fall, it's exciting for NXT because that roster, like we were talking about, is going to be loaded with superstars like Julia, like Stephanie Vaquer. So it's going to be really fun to watch NXT as they head into CW too, coming up in the fall. So they're building up for that trendsetter. That is the breaking news. And of course, we'll obviously talk about this on the weekend as well, see if there's any more news coming out of it. But that is the breaking news as we open up this week's show here on HSP. All right, trendsetter, Monday Night Raw, and it's just been continuing this these amount of shows that we've had. So it's time to get Raw, and it's time to talk about this past Monday night. And listen, another strong episode as we're coming out from Money in the Bank. And we'll get to Money in the Bank as well. But of course, the top story is Mommy is back, trendsetter. Rhea Ripley returned to Monday night, and what a way to come back to seeing Dominik in a precarious position with Liv Morgan. I've been a huge fan of that storyline. I like they're pushing the envelope too with just kind of that Attitude Era stuff. Not too crazy, not too far, but it kind of gives you that nostalgia of what the Attitude Era was with some of the scenes between Dominik and Liv, and just the great work between two of the Judgment Day and their reactions to Carlito's killing it. I'm glad he's kind of got a roll into this now. He's become kind of like that comedy guy, but in a good way. Just your thoughts on Mommy coming back.
I think this will be the only time I'll ever say this on this show. Who knows? I could be wrong, but I think this will be the only time I'll ever say it. I have never been more jealous of Dominik Mysterio in my life, man. Do I
Man,
wish that I was him right now to be in the storyline, to be able to work with Rhea Ripley and to do this, comedic, tongue in cheek kind of thing she's doing, Liv Morgan. It's amazing, dude. It's one of the best things I've seen right now on the show. One of the and again, hey, listen, I have to give credit where credit is due too. And I always saw the talent in Dominic in terms of in ring work, but you always wondered, could he transition? Could he get himself out of, as most second or third generation superstars find themselves in the issue where, can you escape the shadow of your predecessor, of your father, your uncle, your whoever? And Dominic's done that. He's become his own man right now, and it's just been amazing to watch the transition. That mullet, Jesus. I will have some heat on him though. He's got to stop stealing my mustache, dude. Like, come on, dude. That's enough's enough, bro. With that,
you're
but he
on.
does look a lot more like Eddie now, more than anything, doesn't he?
Well, his dad, of course, his true
Yeah,
dad.
it looks more like his true father. But
Oh,
dude, it's been some of the best thing I've seen. I would say honestly too, in terms of with mommy being back, it's kind of what we thought. We were wondering whether, she was going to come back uh, during this Raw or, closer heading towards SummerSlam. But, it was reaching that boiling point when she's going to return. We knew she wasn't going to get surgery. We knew that she was doing rehab on it. So mommy's back now. So now it creates a scenario where Liv was out for a while. She came back, got some revenge, did the same thing to Rhea Ripley. Now she's out for revenge too, but now it pits the scenario of where do the loyalties lie for Dominik Mysterio? Which side is he going to choose? That's the intriguing thing, which I think will lead to obviously the biggest event for WWE in the summer, SummerSlam. But my goodness, dude, you couldn't have asked for anything better. And especially Jeff, especially towards the end when Liv Morgan ran out of the ring, you saw Rhea Ripley so mad at Dominik Mysterio, and then you saw Liv Morgan in the corner there looking through the curtain and smiling that devilish little smile that I love from Liv Morgan, dude. She has become through this whole process. We thought again she was gonna be lost in the shuffle when she came back from injury. Now she has found her own. She is her own person too. And it's great to watch that. It's great to watch a guy like Dominik Mysterio. We saw that with Rhea a year ago, and now we're seeing this with Liv Morgan, dude. It's great. It's amazing how these people who in the past didn't get these type of opportunities are now getting them. But more importantly, they're running away with it right now.
Liv Morgan has shined, no doubt about it. This role has just really elevated her. Before, when she won that title from Ronda Rousey at Money in the Bank, you kind of were like, yes, that was a great moment for her, but then the way she carried herself, okay, it was nice, but this run has been amazing. You can tell just the confidence that she has with what she's doing, and you can tell that she's making that title. So this reign, no matter what it was for, it's really elevated Liv Morgan into this different status too. So that's great to see her. And then, of course, you go back to this whole Judgment Day scenario too, and whether there's going to be sides that are going to be picked, whether Rhea Ripley, if you think about it, though, the only person she's had contact with has been Damian Priest. That is the only guy that she's talked to.
Mm-hmm. So you got to feel that maybe Dominik feels a little slighted here too. That it's his mommy, and his mommy's been talking to Damian Priest and hasn't really been communicating with him. So a lot of layers to this story going on, especially the whole scenario of Damian Priest as well. So I'm sure we'll get into
Think
of
about
where he lies with Judgment Day. So
though, Dominik hasn't talked to Rhea, and it looks like Carlito, JD, and Finn have been easily bought by Liv. So there's a lot of turmoil there, and obviously also finding out that Rhea has been internally written in as a face now on the roster. So the Judgment Day still stays heels. So we'll see what happens there. But it's going to be a great dynamic now that she's back. We don't know if she's still fully cleared though. So that SummerSlam, while it looks like it's going to happen, it's still up in the air a little bit to see if they get that match for SummerSlam. But SummerSlam is shaping up to be a strong card if they can get Rhea versus Liv. That should be an unbelievable match, but I'm looking forward to next week. It's a must watch. And I think them cutting off and not seeing that full reaction afterwards to make us want to see the digital and make us go find this stuff over. I don't know how crazy the downloads have been and the views, but it has gone crazy in watching that whole reaction too, and the way they did the whole Dominik looking up, and then the reactions by all of them, really just well done. And that's just one of the reasons why Monday Night Raw has been so fun to watch. Then you've also got, of course, the whole Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins now being involved and thrust into this, and the whole CM Punk. And I know you have a lot of opinions on CM Punk, but that also too was very interesting to open up with CM Punk talking about Drew, and then Seth Rollins coming in, and of course from Money in the Bank. All this intertwines. That's why it's so great. I can go back to it because everything is basically like in a timeline, because it's just the story has been told so well. I can actually go back to it because there is a sequence to all of this, right? So obviously, Seth Rollins is upset because CM Punk cost him the championship, although a lot of people can say that the referee cost Seth Rollins the championship at Money in the Bank. But obviously Seth Rollins has
can help the case basically. But yeah, no, I get you.
Seth Rollins has a gripe, and CM Punk just can't apologize. He can't find it in his soul to ever apologize. And I think it just ends not doesn't end, it just paints CM Punk as a guy that will never ever admit that he's wrong. So take it from there. Your reaction about the whole Seth Rollins and CM Punk confrontation, because it can go in a lot of ways, but just your take, and then I'll get your feedback off of that, and I'll give you mine.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be short. I'm not gonna be long-winded on this too because we only have a certain amount of time. But all I can say is, man, from the scenario of CM Punk being injured, and I'm sure a lot of people are disappointed in the fact that we didn't get the main event that we wanted, which was Seth Rollins and CM Punk for the world title at WrestleMania 40. CM Punk finally main eventing a WrestleMania. Granted, it wouldn't be Sunday; it would be Saturday. This is the best thing that ever happened, in my opinion, to CM Punk. It's the best thing that ever happened to Drew McIntyre. It's the best thing that ever happened to Seth Rollins, because instead of it being one linear story, now we have several ones mixed in, like you said before, and that just creates, in my opinion, compelling television, compelling storytelling, because everyone has a gripe. And I think through all this scenario, I mean, we knew where Seth was, we knew where CM Punk was, but to have the emergence of somebody, in my opinion, who's been there for a while, but in my humble opinion, finally arrived when he knew this was his last opportunity, was in the middle of negotiations of re-signing with the company, and knew this was my last opportunity to showcase that I belong on that main event level. I belong to be a top talent, and I'm talking about Drew McIntyre. Has done an incredible job. And I think, honestly, again, we talk about regimes, and this is going to be a continuing pattern as we continue on the summer into the fall and the winter. But you see the difference, guys, in terms of how the old regime ran things and what the new one is right now. People are given the opportunity to fail. Granted, you don't want them to fall flat on their face. It does happen occasionally from time to time, but Drew and all these individuals are allowed now to try and showcase their talent and what they have. So when we go to CM Punk in terms of him starting off Monday, I mean, let's be honest. CM Punk, in all honesty, and I've compared this to Bryan Danielson, is a hypocrite. I think Michael Cole's a hypocrite as well, too, because if you really look at this, Jeff, who is the one person that's really obsessed, has this obsession? It's not Drew. The only thing Drew ever did was be thankful and thank the Lord above for CM Punk being injured. That's all he ever did. And then moved on with the rest of his life. He wanted to become world champion. He became world champion for 5 minutes and, what was it, 36 seconds or something like that? But he became world champion. Had an opportunity in his hometown, another main event that he earned, by the way, because he won a triple threat match to become the number one contender. And then Money in the Bank defeated a huge, more deserving roster out there in terms, not more deserving, but a well-deserved roster out there of guys that could have gotten Money in the Bank, but he got it and called a shot. So for somebody to go all the way to Glasgow and then to follow him around because their main objective in life, let alone they have a wife and a dog to take care of, is to make sure Drew McIntyre never becomes world champion. I don't know. I think the obsession goes on the other foot here. And the perfect thing when Seth Rollins came out, and now we have this intertwined because this is an unfinished story too between Seth and CM Punk. The same thing CM Punk brews is the same thing now he's going to take. Can he actually taste his own medicine? Because, as he said, actions have consequences, Phil. Yes, I'm using his government name. And he's going to now not know what it's like to have the same thing happen to him. So if he wants to showcase misery and life on hell for Drew McIntyre, well, Seth Rollins now has nothing else to do, and he's going to do the exact same thing for CM Punk or Phil Brooks, whatever you want to call him here. So I really like it. I think this is great. It's all building towards CM Punk and Drew McIntyre as we know it, Jeff. But now having Seth involved in this too just creates, again, another dynamic which just makes compelling TV, compelling storytelling, and more importantly, us as fans, we're invested in it too. So the hypocrite CM Punk, say what you want, because at the end of the day, who knows? In 2 weeks, he'll probably be back on the shelf again. So might as well enjoy his run.
You're harsh, dude. But how about this? You talk about compelling.
Stop me when I'm telling lies, Jeff. Stop me when I'm telling lies.
Compelling to you if you saw this as a triple threat because you wanted to see Drew and CM Punk for so long, but now Seth has really nothing to do. Now, Damian Priest kind of basically said that, hey, that whole gentleman's agreement where you don't have to vie for that championship, that's thrown out the window. After the Gunther, I'll go after you. But Seth really has nothing to do at SummerSlam. Do you think they're pushing for a triple threat between CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Punk, Rollins, and McIntyre, and maybe we get that matchup later?
For me, honestly, I wouldn't want to see that. And I'll tell you why, though. I think just the whole CM Punk Drew has been built up so much that you want to see at least somewhat of a conclusion on that, too. Having Seth involved is not bad, but I don't think it would take away a little bit, in my opinion, from the dynamic of what we're having in the personal animosity that's going on between Drew and CM Punk. So as much as Seth would be in there, sometimes having triple threat matches do make sense, but in my opinion, it doesn't make it. I mean, wouldn't you want to see Drew and CM Punk first, or would the triple threat match suit you as a fan, Jeff?
I would love to see Drew and CM Punk first, but the way this is leaning towards, and again, Seth Rollins he's got a legit reason to be thrust into this, and these are the two guys that kind of griped the most when CM Punk returned in November. So it's to get Seth Rollins reinserted into this storyline. And when you're thinking about it, though, what happens? What happens to Seth, though? Is he just going to stand by the wayside now that Punk is cleared at SummerSlam? If he's going to be clear, let's just say he gets cleared, and it's CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. There's going to be there's going to be consequences to Punk's actions. And if you think that Seth Rollins is going to stand idly by and see that match go unfold and have a chance for CM Punk to get his revenge, I don't think so. So that's why I think I see this, as much as we want to see CM Punk and Drew, I think, too, another way to protect Punk, like you said, he's so easily fragile, is to not have him in a one-on-one bout right away and do it in a triple threat. Do I like it? I mean, if I say I didn't like a triple threat between those three guys, I'd be lying. But I kind of was looking forward to Drew and CM Punk. But if you get this, I would understand why. Well, there's that, and then obviously we'll see what happens because we have a few weeks till SummerSlam, and again, the card is shaping up to be really good. So we have the whole Liv Morgan and Rhea. We've got Seth and Drew and Punk. So let's talk about two. How about Braun Breaker? How about the evolution of Braun Breaker? Another hard hitting Monday Night Raw for him. He's still in that title picture against Sami Zayn. I think eventually the plan is for Braun Breaker to be the Intercontinental Champion.
I think so too. but I do like the waiting period it's happening here. It does create. I mean, as much as they're making Braun Breaker, who my God looks so much like his father, it's ridiculous. He looks literally a spitting image of him, right? But it creates the level of as dominant they're trying to make him. It does create the fact that he is beatable. It is possible to beat him. He's not this unstoppable force. It's happened now. But again, it puts back Sami Zayn as, again, what he does best, as being the underdog, right? So it creates, in the scenario now that, you have Sammy, you have Braun, you have Ilya in there too. It creates a scenario where, who knows, maybe we just talked about it before, right? With CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. Maybe we get a triple threat match for the Intercontinental title. It just seems like everything is working in the scenario where Braun will eventually get it. But I do like this waiting period they're doing, because if the scenario, like, let's say a SummerSlam, if it does happen, we don't know, no match has been set. That'd be a pretty nice stage if you're going to win your first main title on the main roster.
Oh, no doubt about it. And I think Sammy continues as a as that face continues to bring that title to keep it at that level that Gunther had it. I don't think there's been a drop off with Sami Zayn as a champion. I think all his matches have been great. I think a little surprising that Money in the Bank that did happen though. So a lot of people thought that, hey, that was going to be the coronation. But you bring up an excellent point. Why not do it on the biggest party of the summer time in Cleveland for SummerSlam and have that be Braun Breaker's coronation? And I mean, the sky's the limit for this dude. And I think what I liked is that this guy can deliver on the promo as well. He's got that, like, the mannerisms, the facials, which just are things you can't teach. That whole fake out on Adam Pearce was great. I mean, just the little touches too. I thought that was funny when you look back at it as well. And then him dropping the Steiner line too at their post match when he's like, the Steiners. I mean, that little hint that he's a Steiner also is a good reminder to everybody, hey, that this guy has got a great lineage too, and that this guy is bound for success. So again, another great job for Braun Breaker too. Sky's the limit for this dude. The women's division trendsetter is is taking shape, and I think too that Triple H has done a great job in adding stories beyond just the hunt for the women's championships. And I think if you take a look at it, I think Triple H is a fan of factions as well, because we're getting this
We'll
brand.
give you that hint.
And I know there's nothing wrong with factions, dude, because you can create storylines within factions, and it kind of helps the stars develop. Because you're always gonna find one star, one diamond in the rough in between those factions, because one will the cream will rise to the top in one of those factions. So you have this new faction with Sonya Deville, Zoe Stark, and Shayna Baszler. And again, we talked about Shayna Baszler and how she's, to us, is deserving of a opportunity, but now she's put in this faction and they're going up against Damage Control. There's rumors too about a women's Intercontinental Championship or United States Championship. There might be more titles added, so it is very exciting right now in the women's division. I don't know how excited you are about this faction forming, but listen, Damage Control is getting a little stale. Damage Control needed something, and I don't know if they're going to become now this face faction with the additions of Deville, Baszler, and Zoe Stark, because they're heels, right? So I don't know if there's a new direction for Damage Control, but they needed this in the worst way, because since the whole Bailey, leaving and her kicking her out, they've gone, they've really dropped. So I like the stories. I kind of like the factions. What are your thoughts on the women's division going forward?
Oh, we talked about it before in the beginning. I mean, that roster is gaining a tremendous amount of depth in terms of their talent. Now, one of the benefits in terms of the factions, like I said, Triple H seems to be a fan of it, right? What it does, in my opinion, at least, I wouldn't say protects, but it allows you to have the same amount of people have the same amount of TV time, because they all individually can't get it. There's only so much time for everyone else. So in the scenario for a Shayna Baszler, who, listen, despite what you want to think about Shayna Baszler, and to me, there's certain things that don't appeal me about her too, but she's earned her stripes. She's in my opinion, done things the right way, because she's done a great job in the indie scene and worked her way up from NXT all the way to the main roster. So she deserves to be where she wants to. She deserves to be where she is, in terms of getting more opportunities. Individually, could that happen for her? I don't think so. We kind of talked about in previous shows before where the difficulty lies in that. So stable works, and now we're bringing back Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville has had her momentum come back, and then injury, pushed that side. Zoe has run a little bit stale. So in a way, that's an ability to have everyone kind of work together to get themselves, I feel, over all of them, all three of them together. And you talked about titles right now too, in terms of, when you look at the women's division, you really only have the WWE Championship and the Women's World Championship. Now to have secondary titles, great, but when you're looking at it, Jeff, just not just from the women's roster, but you look at the men's roster too. We're looking at the Wyatt Six, and then you look at AEW, for example, and the Dark Order, and then you're looking at all these factions being brought up, right?
Oh my god,
Too
I would
far-fetched to be a trios championship title
no,
reign.
no, it doesn't work.
Is that too much?
No, that's to me. That's too much. To me, it was a nice idea, but that trios thing is that's just too many. That's just too many. And I'll leave it at this. I would never put Dark Order and the Wyatt Six as early stages of Wyatt Six. I would never put them in the same. I would never put them in the
But
same.
they're a faction, aren't they, Jeff?
They're,
That's the point I'm trying to make here. I know it's apples and oranges, but again, we're trying to compare levels of scenarios of where you have a scenario in a different company with the Dark Order, where, I mean, listen, you have Aleister Black, Buddy Murphy, and Brody Lee. You cannot tell me you cannot make stars out of those guys.
that's the House of Black. That's not the Dark Order.
Yeah. Sorry, the Dark Order, the House of Black. My mistake. I stand corrected there. But point being made, you're seeing them trying to make stars, and you're seeing what they're doing now in WTV. So as much as you're against it, I'm sure people here be like, trio, too many titles. Before there weren't enough spots for people. Now you're creating more opportunities. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we have a speed title going out there held by Andrade. So you can't tell me it'd be too far-fetched to believe that. But I feel right now, under these new circumstances, it could work. It could possibly work because in the scenario, you would have stories that made sense that it would be happening. It wouldn't just be this team versus this team, and there's no reason why they're facing each other. So
I would
yeah.
be a proponent to it, but hey, never say never, right? Because you never know. This is a new regime.
It's worth a talk about, at least to think, maybe.
So yeah, so I will never shoot it down. But what I just like, I mean, look at those titles in AEW, like the international. I mean, you got Jim Cornette calling it the Intercontinental title, the International Championship, the Continental. What I mean, that's just to me like unnecessary championships, and you're putting it on. I don't know. Again, I'm for the women's championships because you just want to see that. Eventually though, I do think there will be a women's show. I will think so because you just have a lot. You have a lot of people on this roster, and they're building this thing up. And I could see one day that there's going to be a women's show. It would just be another way, another direction for WWE to do this. I mean, they'll still be on Raw and SmackDown, but eventually I think there will be a women's show on WWE. Maybe Peacock on Netflix might have that women's show. You never know. 2025 is going to be a huge year for WWE. We'll talk about that as well. Oh my God, there's so much to talk to, Trendsetter. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, let's go.
Ridiculous. All right. And one more thing, too. Kudos to Shayna Baszler because she's going to be at Bloodsport in July. She's going to take on Mitu Yamashita, too. So that's going to be another.
See, things we wouldn't see. AJ Styles in a different promotion. Shayna Baszler going to a different promotion wrestle.
AJ Styles this weekend.
Yeah.
Wrestling Noah.
How crazy is that?
That is.
Never thought we'd see that.
That is crazy. And yeah. So, we'll do that. And we'll just look forward to a lot of wrestling too coming up. Just this whole summer is going to be tremendous. So Money in the Bank, we'll touch on that a little bit too because there is a fallout out of it, and the ladder matches were insane. If you saw the IG Live, we did a whole post reaction to it. So just want to go back to that and just our 2 cents on just the synopsis of that event. And again, it was another home run. I think that it was an entertaining show. I think 5 matches is really a good way to go. 5 or 6, depending on it. You want to do a kickoff, that's cool. But the matches had time. I think the really big, I guess, take out of it too was that championship matchup between Seth and Damian, where just that whole non-kick out was kind of the story of Damian Priest not kicking out, had the stinger and the miscommunication. And I don't know, Trendsetter. Here's the thing. I got to ask you. I know that Jonathan Coachman said that he learned from the beginning that you count to 3. You do that count. But it would have messed up a lot of stuff because Drew wouldn't be able to. I mean, maybe Drew could have cashed in. Maybe Seth wins. Drew cashes it on Seth and still beats him, right? And then he can still be some way that
in this case loses still,
I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how they would communicate that to the guys because I'm sure Punk is already somewhere else. He's probably being, I don't know how they would communicate that, relay that to that. But was the referee right not to count to 3?
Listen, you know I've talked about this, and I'll say this here on the show too, because I feel it deserves worth mentioning, right? And people might disagree with me, and I encourage that too. I think what the ref did was wrong. I think if it's your job to count, and it's the responsibility of the performer to kick out. Now, whether the referee has the signals to the performer, kick out on this one, whatever. When you count down and the person doesn't do it, to hold it back and to kind of mask it makes it look even worse. I could forgive a mistake like that where like, oh my God, the title just changed hands. Now, Damian Priest is out of the Judgment Day and it creates all this chaos. I'd rather deal with that chaos than the fact that it just looked terrible. It was a bad presentation. And Triple H even said in the post press conference after Money in the Bank too, it's like everyone likes to nitpick on the negative, right? Can't help us, can't blame us. That's what a lot of people do, right? Or like to point it out. And in terms of a match, like that's all they're gonna think about. Wouldn't it be great if they thought, oh my God, I never expected Seth to win, even if it was a mistake, and then kind of go in the seat of your pants and be like, you know what, let's do this on the fly. Because sometimes that's as much as that mistake would be chaotic in the sense in terms of where they were going storyline wise. Sometimes the best things comes from those types of mistakes. So I think the ref was wrong. Whoever was wrong, he should have counted to 3. If he didn't kick out, he didn't kick out and move on there. I'd rather do that and ask for forgiveness later than to do what happened and it just looked terrible and everyone looked bad on that. So
It's tough because for some reason pro wrestling is held to this level where you can't fuck up, right? You can't, like, you botch something, you're expected to be on 100%. Just like athletes in professional sports, you're not supposed to leave that pitch right in the middle of the plate, right? Because you're better than that. Same thing in pro wrestling. We have these expectations that they can't mess up. Same thing with talent, same thing with refs and stuff like that. But hey, it happens. And yeah, I am to the opinion where I agree with you. He should have counted to 3. But I think part of me was thinking, wow, I was thinking of the consequences as if there was a 3, because how do you do that finish now? How do you get in touch with these wrestlers and tell them, hey, we're changing this way on the fly? And how do you take Damian Priest's Judgment Day situation? How do you fix that? So obviously, I totally, I totally, looking back on it, I do believe though that the referee should have definitely counted to 3. The women's Money in the Bank matches were it was insane. It was crazy what they did, and I'm glad they're okay. But it was probably one of the most memorable women's Money in the Bank. And congratulations to Tiffany Stratton. The men's Money in the Bank, obviously Drew McIntyre wins it, but it's also very entertaining. Hey guys, don't bitch about storylines and the briefcase, because Cody's not losing it anytime soon. And who's ever winning that title, either Damian Priest keeps it or Gunther keeps it or wins it, that's going to be a long title reign too. So how are they going to cash it in? How are they going to cash it in? It'd be pointless to do so. So I think Drew, to propel the storyline, it was a good job. Sami Zayn retains, and obviously, we get Solo Sikoa beating Cody Rhodes, and we'll talk about SmackDown on the weekend show. But are you happy with Solo getting the victory over Cody and that being the match most likely at SummerSlam?
no, I don't think Cody Rhodes should ever lose a match. No, I'm joking. Let's be honest, guys. We're talking about like Drew and CM Punk. We're talking about the women's division. We're talking about what's going on with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. We're talking about these trios and these factions that are happening. It's all a story that continually goes in different directions. And like again, even the bots that happen, right, where that could have led to something. In this scenario here, it's like it had to happen because there has to be credibility. I think somebody put it on social media, Jeff, right? Like Solo was 0-56 on these
34,
events right now.
34, something like that. I saw
Yeah,
that.
134. Yeah, so it's like, of course, I was embellishing though, but there has to be some legitimacy here because it's such an important part right now in terms of Solo really kind of discovering who he is as a character. You have to establish this bloodline in terms of the same way you gave the importance to the original bloodline, which was Roman and the Usos, right? You have to have some type of threat. If Cody wins this or the bloodline loses, it looks terrible. So if we had the ability of, or sorry, we had the scenario where Solo is going to go after Cody, am I really that concerned? Do I really take it in terms of seriousness? But now him pinning him in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3, beating the champion. Now, as we move on towards SummerSlam, you're like, wow, like he's beating him now. So there is so it has to be in terms of pro wrestling, it has to be some type of believability that the bad guy, the villain heel, can beat the good guy, in this case Cody. So I'm all for it. I thought they made the right decision here. I think in the end, it doesn't hurt Cody. It just helps elevate Solo Sikoa in terms of this new tribal chief that he's portraying and he's embracing, and this new bloodline, which, as they said before, I think they did a great job also in Money in the Bank too, where the original bloodline had certain rules, certain lines they wouldn't cross. This one doesn't have any lines. There is no line, and there's no sand, no line drawn in the sand. There is no line, and again, it creates a different dynamic, a different type of scenario where the crowd now can be like, "Wow, we thought one chapter was done," as Roman said. Another chapter begins here with this new version of it, and probably more dangerous than they've ever been. So I was all for it. I mean, what do you think? Was there any other way they could have done it and have him not pin Cody Rhodes?
No, he had to. He had to be. He's got to be legitimate. They made the group legitimate last week when they power bombed Paul Heyman, right? But now he had to get that victory. He had to get that win. So obviously that was the way to go. And it's a tag match, not a singles matchup. And you have to plant that seed that Solo is able to beat Cody Rhodes. And we'll see, because all this is leading to hopefully the return of the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, and see if he interferes at SummerSlam. But that is what we're looking forward to for SummerSlam. And that kind of puts a ribbon on Money in the Bank. Again, guys, we go on after every pay-per-view or PLE, depending you watch AEW or WWE, and we come on and we discuss this. So we touched about this as well. So make sure you hit up our IG lives and check as we recap all the shows. All right, Trendsetter, really quick before we head to NXT and close this out, we waited a long time for the WrestleMania documentary. And we waited and waited and waited because we were so excited after WrestleMania. And then 3 months later, it comes out. An hour of, I say, Rock propaganda to show everyone how I think Rock was a genius. I think that looking back on it, the only thing I think of why it took so long is because they had to get their story straight. And I think at the end of the day, I heard the documentary because we just want real. And then this looked like just, everybody was on the same page. I think The Rock had no problems putting Cody to the side. And this just, to me, was just damage control, no pun intended, on The Rock pushing the narrative that, hey, the small Cody crybabies wanted this, so we're going to give it to you, and we'll do The Rock and Roman Reigns at a later date.
Yeah, I think you might have said it better in the nicest way possible in terms of how I wanted to say it, but I'll hold that in terms of my true feelings. But I will say this though, overhyped really in terms of what you're looking forward to, because you're hoping to see what we all kind of thought, which you just mentioned before, Rock coming in, wanting to promote the best WrestleMania. In a way, from what you heard, rumors were that was fearful that because of all the injuries that had occurred, maybe the event wouldn't be as popular. So, hey, he wanted to throw himself in and be a good company guy, right? But in the same scenario, you're hurting a story that's already been established. Listen, the biggest thing, like you said before, a lot of great editing, because I'm pretty sure none of those conversations were nice and polite and very
Cordial.
cordial and professional.
Think about Cody, man. Like,
We all have egos, right? To a certain extent. I can't imagine all those egos all agreeing at the same thing at the same time.
and I think too that I don't know if there was their intention, but it makes it makes The Rock have to be the final boss, because this, I don't know, the intention was to make him look even more of a flown blown heel, but this gives him no alternative but to come back as the final boss. And I think, listen, maybe they're working us. Maybe this was the intent, to just make that final boss character even more heelish, right? Maybe that was the intent. But
If they made us wait 3 months just to
yeah.
make it a work, then screw them all.
And
Because I'd wait 3 months for this.
the last thing is, yeah, maybe Triple H. I kind of surprised that he had no plans for Cody after that, right? Because I kind of feel like that Triple H is very prepared. So my theory is that Triple H bet that I think he bet that Cody Rhodes eventually down the road the fans would call for him to be in that main event. So I think that's why Triple H till the very last second, because he took the brunt of it. I'll take the fall. I don't think you get a guy like Cody and you have him on your side and not have a main event match planned for him if that were to drop. I think that Triple H was he was dead set on Cody Rhodes being in that main event.
Yeah, from what I got from the documentary, if I got anything from it, it was probably the scenario that the only one that was leaning more towards Cody, besides the fans, obviously during that time, was Triple H.
Yeah.
So as much as they were pushing forward with this, I think the reason why Triple H made that comment, like I don't know, is one similar to we talked about the whole Damian Priest referee thing, right, with Seth Rollins. If it had happened, oh my goodness, you're really thinking this on the fly, and it could have been a last minute thing where like I wasn't like Shawn Michaels would be like, I don't know, I wasn't ready for this type of thing. That's my Shawn Michaels impersonation. I think in the same scenario here, but I think it was all with the belief, at least Triple H thought that this would go back to what the original set was, which what ended up happening. So
I think he was set on that, and I totally believe that was the reason. All
I
right,
believe Nick Khan, Roman, Rock wanted this storyline with Roman and Rock. I think Triple H wanted Cody. That's what we got.
At the end of the day, it freaking worked. It worked out, right? It ended up working out. It was probably the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time. All right, so let's just quickly hit on NXT here, because the main things I got out of this is it continues to be a strong show. The ratings were up over the weekend from July 4th, so the ratings were up this week. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of development. You're seeing that partnership with TNA. You saw the Rascals reunite, which was very emotional. Good to see Wesley and everyone get back together. Trey Miguel and Zach Wentz, they all got back together. It was nice to see. I honestly think there's a conspiracy theory there too, because I think this partnership was well before, because I think WWE was like, hey, TNA, sign Zach Wentz, because we really stand by him, but we had to release him for what happened and stuff. So I think that was also part of it too. I think that went way back, and I think eventually we'll see him back. But that was nice to see the Rascals come back, and it was also great to see when you say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe freaking Henry, man. That was great to see too. Great to see a TNA guy beats an NXT guy in the middle. He gets pushed. Dude, I mean, what is this? What age are we living in, man? So great to see. This is how a partnership works.
Yeah, exactly. This is how a partnership works. In terms of what we're seeing how it should be done in a way, because for that happening, to see a TNA guy beat an NXT guy under a WWE umbrella, right? You would never think it. WWE can't lose. No guy can lose. Not in this scenario, too, because it doesn't hurt WWE. And in this scenario, it just helps TNA, and it helps the partnership, too, because if you bury TNA, what good is it? Because then nobody cares. But if you give the scenario where you put TNA in a position where they become well known, WWE being a more global brand, even NXT to this degree, people are gonna see Joe Hendry. I like him. He's a TNA guy, huh? What is TNA wrestling? And they're gonna tune into that, so it helps everyone out. So you don't need to bury Joe. You don't need to have every single person that who knows might come over and cross over to an NXT or a Raw or a SmackDown. Who knows? And it builds the anticipation. And wow, maybe not just NXT, maybe it could happen on SmackDown, maybe it could happen on Raw. You never know, right? Creates anticipation. It's a slow moving process. You're not having like this type of invasion thing or like everyone rushing in. We're getting everything at once. It's a slow process. It leaves you wanting more. And for TNA and WWE, I think this partnership is working great. I think they're all on the same page theoretically from what we're watching, because you had Jordan Grace lose to Roxanne Perez. Ooh, here we go. And now you have Joe Hendrick beat a WWE guy. How cool is that, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. Joe Hendry, obviously, like you said before.
Sounds like Joe Hendrick when it sings the song, okay? So
What?
all right, I'm just going by what it sounds like to me, all right, dude?
No, but I'm just saying Joe Henry.
Mm-hmm.
I think you
Why does it sound like Hendrick when they sing it, when they do the clap? It sounds like Hendrick.
no, because no, but it's Henry. I think that what you said before was like, hey, where's this guy wrestle? Where else can I see him at? I just saw him at NXT, but where else can I go see? And it's gonna help TNA. It's not one sided like AEW was, and you can't tell me different, because that was a um, one sided partnership. And I think that when you look at the end of the day, I think those partnerships are a lot one sided, because you are kind of given into one person. So that was NXT Slam Sessions. A really good show for NXT. Again, looking forward to next week, because you have the Rascals in action. They're going to get together, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great to see them in the ring on NXT. So again, looking forward to that as well. Trendsetter. My final take on this week as we head into the weekend show, because we're going to do Dynamite and we're going to do SmackDown, right? And we're going to get into all the wrestling from the weekend too, especially the AJ Styles Pro Wrestling Noah. We'll preview that. I'll say this about the Stephanie Vaquer thing, and this is going to be my hot take. I know Mercedes Moné is obviously, she believes her hype, but I think this. I think that after Forbidden Door, I think that once it opened up WWE's eyes, I think she still has a good vibe with Triple H. And I believe that she hit up Triple H and was like, "This girl, I'm giving you the green light, sign her." Don't ask me how, don't ask me, but I get the feeling that to me is something that I think that Mercedes' heart is WWE, but I think her body is in AEW. So I honestly totally believe that she gave the green light, and I do believe that this is just a gut feeling. I think that she's collecting paychecks from AEW, but I think her heart still bleeds WWE. So I mean, that's just my take. But I think that obviously I believe that you don't get into that scenario with Mercedes Moné, and she sees that and she's like, "This girl's ready. She doesn't need to be toiling here. She should be on the big stage." And I think she gave that green light. I don't know where I'm getting this from, but I just believe that's definitely what I see.
Yeah, well, what I see is that Mercedes Moné's heart is with Mercedes Moné. So,
I like that.
so
But man, awesome to come back here and redo this show. We're able to talk about Monday Night Raw and talk about all this stuff, and there'll probably be more breaking news for the weekend show, but definitely we'll talk about all that, guys. And it's been so great. Make sure you listen to us on all our podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You'll find HSP, and you can find us though on the video side here on the Give Us a Shot Network. HSP is proud to be part of Give Us a Shot. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so this weekend you can catch HSP as we talk about SmackDown and Dynamite. Trendsetter, great being with you, man. And close this is only the way you know how to close it out, bro.
I wish I could say the same for you. But guys, we are the Just Your Wrecking Crew. He is Jeff Martin. I'm the Trendsetter Brian Berger. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We always appreciate it. Remember, we do this for one reason and one reason only. We do this for you, the crew.